Hi, good evening. Welcome to the Power of Now. I am Coach Mitchell,
And I am Coach Darren.
and together we are MD Coaching and Consulting. Welcome tonight to the Power of Now. Tonight we're going to talk about how to find your inner peace or tapping into your inner peace. And it's such an individualized action that a lot of people seem to miss because they think that it's this. Good evening, thank you for joining us. That it is something that is beyond their reach, and sometimes tapping into your inner peace is difficult when you have a lot of commotion or confusion going on in your mind.
That is absolutely correct. First of all, I just want to make sure, can you hear me?
You're low, but we can hear you.
Okay.
You could turn up your volume a little bit.
Yeah. Up. Now I can't hear you, Coach Mitchell. Well, did you just mute yourself?
No, I'm not muted. I am fully
Okay. I
audible.
can barely hear you. But anyway, we're going through this huge transition now, I think globally, and it can be described in many ways. Some people refer to it as a great reset. And what's meant by that, you have kind of, well, let's talk about, this term woke that everyone's been talking about and people have been pushing back. And I find it really amazing that there will be any pushback to folks being woke, because when you think about it, woke is the opposite of what? Sleep.
Sleep, and you want to be
Sleep is
aware.
equated with death and ignorance. So why would people want to push back? But a derivative of that is that people are also trying to find things that in their life that was once ignored. There's a quote that I saw not too long ago that says, happiness is the new right. Inner peace is the new success. Health is the new wealth, and kindness is the new cool. People are truly trying. There's a separation. I'm saying you got a segment of the population that are truly trying to find something meaningful. They're saying to themselves, there's more to life than what I'm experiencing. There's more to life to all than all divisiveness, all this confusion, this uncertainty. And in the process, they're also looking for what we refer to as inner peace. Now, what would that inner peace be? Well, that inner peace is that it's a state of being where you have a sense of awareness that allows you to kind of control uh, who you are in any given moment. And let me touch on this. It's a journey. It's a journey that you keep working on. Not everyone's going to be the Dalai Lama or Mahatma Gandhi or Buddha or Christ or any of those people. It is a learned, ongoing process. And part of it is for many of us, and I say many of us, including myself, we have to really go through and relearn how do we react to situations. Why? Because we've been taught to respond from our ego. And usually, and that just makes me think of another quote I once heard that said, embarrassment is just the ego losing control. So
I
when you think
have
about it,
another
we
one.
fight to protect our ego. And that sometimes gets us into a situation that it's difficult to get out of or has long lasting consequences.
Right, right.
This is
The one
why
I
inner peace is really about strength. It is not a weakness. You know, we've all heard, growing up, about walking away. And for men, this is a huge thing because we are dominated by our ego. And just for the
Mhm.
record, the ego is not necessarily a bad thing. That's, again, generally speaking, it serves a purpose. So when you think about it, that we're looking at finding that inner peace, that place within ourselves that we can find refuge that really we can't be moved out of. So it is a peaceful place that we reside on a mental and spiritual level. So let's think about something. What are some of the things that would interfere with our inner peace? And I'm gonna put this question out there. If anyone's struggling trying to find an inner peace, please, put your questions in. Now, I just want you to know I cannot see your questions or comments, but I believe Mitchell, you can.
Good evening. Good evening.
Mhm.
We
And
have
again,
Shelly and we have Edwina. I don't.
hold on, Mitchell. I cannot hear you. Ask the audience, can they hear you?
Okay, can you guys hear me on Facebook? Can you hear me? Good evening. Good evening. Let me know if you can hear me. I think I'm having an issue with my audio. Okay, we can hear you both. Okay, so everyone else can hear me. I'm not sure what the issue is with your audio, Coach Darren,
Okay,
but
I can.
everyone is indicating they can hear. But
Yeah.
we have, just so you know, thank you guys for joining us tonight. We have Shelly, we have Edwina, and we have Dr. Nicole.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So, I'm just curious before I share some of the things that uh, tend to disrupt our peace. I'd like to hear from other people. One, are you dealing with things right now that are disrupting your inner peace? And, what might they be? Any responses?
I need to get to the Power of Now's page, but so far I don't see anyone responding, but go
Oh,
ahead.
so that means everyone's just
I,
living a life of bliss. All right. I know that's not
everybody's
the truth.
happy.
All right. But we think about it. There are, some things that are interjected into our space, and then there are things that we really have to take responsibility for that create the disruption and the chaos in our life. But some of the things are just life dynamics like family, finances, relationships. Mhm. Uh, sometimes it could be the vibe, as they say, the vibe of our tribe. Is there
Mhm.
somebody in your tribe that now tends to stress you out? You might have been good friends at one point, but now, yeah, it's time to possibly move on. Not in, hate or negativity, but you just outgrew them. Mhm. Could be, your job. All I saw, somebody said all of that. I don't know who it was, but
That was Dr. Nicole, and then I
okay.
have someone that indicated a house fire. They were displaced, unfortunately. That
What
can
was the last thing you said,
definitely
Mitchell?
disrupt your peace.
Yeah, a lot of people right now, if anybody who spends time on LinkedIn, you will know that people are always talking about trying to find something meaningful with their job. Let's say people don't leave their job, they leave their manager, uh, because of really there's this form of stress that comes from not being appreciated, sometimes not being recognized. Uh, you know, Here's one thing that most of us probably do not know is that we are all dealing with a level of trauma in our life. Mm-mm. Some people, you are aware of it, and some of us are not. We're just going through, we don't even know why we do some of the things we do. That trauma could be something directly inflicted upon us, it could be generational trauma. Mhm. So, again, there's something to look at.
And
And to really get to the bottom of this is where Coach Mitchell comes in. Uh, when she says go deep, mm, rise up, go deep. Yeah,
get up, rise up, go deeper.
yes, go deeper. You're going to have to look within. Uh, you
Coach,
could,
can I just interject before you move on with that?
yeah, go ahead.
Edwina made a comment that she's learned to ignore the noise and keep moving, which
Hmm.
is indicative of a lot of African Americans and African American women,
Hmm.
especially. I was just talking to a young lady on Monday, who actually expressed the same thing until she had a conversation with me and then was encouraged to go and have a conversation with someone else. And she circled back with me on Monday to let me know that she was dealing with things that she did not realize that she was carrying, that was really stressing her. And she was not aware, consciously aware of those things, because she has learned, like a lot of us, especially in the workplace, have learned to deal with those things and move on. Ignore the noise and move on, because we got a job to do and we're focusing on what we think is the outcome. But eventually we come to a place where we really have to deal with that.
Yes.
Right. And she was so appreciative of the conversation and having someone to talk to and express what she had been really internalizing that was causing her sleepless nights, hair loss, and a myriad of other things. But she is beginning to rectify her thought process in dealing with, and her approach in dealing with things that really she shouldn't be carrying beyond the moment.
Correct. But you said something that's important. It's, we say we're ignoring it, but we're not ignoring it. Now, I'm going to be a little, blunt here. So forgive me. You can step over a pile of shit. The pile of shit is still there. And every time you go past it, you're going to have to find some way to get around it. But you're going to have to deal with it, because guess what? It's going to stink up your environment. We do that, especially as African Americans. We are conditioned that we don't have time to address it. We got to keep moving. And I can share that from experience. I had people tell me that. There's no way in the world you cannot be dealing with PTSD based on what happened to you. And my response to them was, I never had the time to look at it because I had to keep going. So it's nice to say we can ignore it. But if it matters and you're forcing yourself to ignore it, it's going to bother you on some level. It's different if you just say, it doesn't bother me. I don't care what that person says. It doesn't bother me. I don't care what they do. It doesn't bother me. So we want to make sure we make the distinction.
Absolutely.
The other thing, I'm sorry, would you say, Mitchell?
No, I was saying absolutely. You're absolutely right. We can pretend, and I think that's what we do. We pretend it's not bothering us when it is things that keep us up at night.
Yes.
You hear a lot of times, if you're in corporate America, you hear the question asked of leaders and CEOs, what keeps you up at night? And our response can be very, very different on the spectrum, depending on where we are and who we are, right?
Right.
And if we're really honest with ourselves, I'm not really bothered for the most part about what's going on in a corporation, because it's going to work itself out with or without me. Now, I didn't come to that conclusion overnight. That was that was a long journey in corporate America. And I had to come to a realization, or as some would say, I had a come to Jesus moment. What's really keeping you up at night? Is it not meeting the metrics? Or is it that you've met the metrics and you're not being valued? And is it that you're not being valued, or you're being valued, but you're not being recognized for the value that you bring? A lot of that.
Yes.
A lot of that.
And that's where those deep inner conversations come in. And you have to be honest when you're having those conversations to really get to the root of what's bothering you. One of the other things that will also cause us to have that will create stress is something that's really common now too, is this feeling of an unsatisfied or unfulfilled life. Where people just are coming to a point and they're realizing this is not, I'm not living, the life that I want. And it has nothing to do with acquiring things. This is a moment where people usually feel unfulfilled because they're not doing something meaningful with their life. And again, it has nothing to do with money. Mhm. If you're dealing with health issues, that may also cause stress. If there's health issues in a family member, they may cause stress. Uh, Here's one that's usually self-inflicted. It
Hey,
sounds
coach,
harsh.
coach, before you move on, can we just acknowledge a couple of people that I was not aware was on?
Say again.
I just want to acknowledge before you move on a couple of people that are on that we did not acknowledge because I didn't know they were on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Please acknowledge.
We have John, and we have Judith.
Oh, okay. Good
Thank you guys
evening.
for joining us tonight.
Mhm. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Mhm. And please feel free to jump in with questions or comments.
Yes, absolutely. I'm trying to monitor all 3 pages. So,
Okay. Those who have been with us before, you've heard me say something I, got from years of teaching. I would tell my students, I'm not your instructor. I'm a facilitator of a dialogue. All right. Because an instructor only talks one way. My objective is to get two-way communication. So please jump in. Mm. The other
yeah,
thing too,
let us hear your comments and your experiences. We'd love to be able to engage in a dialogue with you. Go ahead, coach.
okay. Here I was gonna say, here's something that will cause us stress, and it's usually self-inflicted because it's how we perceive life, and it's this thing called suffering. Mhm. And the suffering usually comes from looking at where we are versus where we want to be or where we thought we would be. And we get stuck in this place, and that creates a level of stress. Mhm. If you experience a kind of stress, is it also coming from this is something else that's becoming really popular? Is it coming from external or social drama, or societal drama? You know, we can easily get caught up in other people's drama. There's a saying is, yeah, you can go on the internet and read the articles, just don't read the comments. Hmm?
Ooh, that's a
All
good
right?
one.
Because if you begin to listen to some of the things that people say, your blood pressure will rise. So you want to consider that. The other thing that may cause stress too is, are you grieving? Hmm? That's another source of the stress in our life. Hmm? So here's again some basic questions before we go into actually finding your inner peace is, hmm, you want to really look at what's bothering you, what's causing the chaos in your life. Hmm? And ask yourself, is it something temporary I'm going through, or is this ongoing? Hmm? Meaning, is it a temporary event that happened that disrupted your flow, or is it something that you see going on? For perpetuity, but we pretty much know fairly nothing goes on forever. So it's just one of the questions to ask yourself, because I remember someone telling me years ago. It says, would this thing matter to you 5 years from now? And your response would be like, no. Then the next question was, then why is it bothering you now? We tend to get caught up in things in the moment that won't have long lasting impact on our life. So, and again, this is a journey. So it sounds simple, but that does not mean it is easy. Again, this is all about moving to that state of being where you truly are not bothered by certain things. You begin to take everything in stride. Uh, something about, referring to wisdom in our life is that we gain wisdom when we can look at the bad things that happen in our life and share them without the emotion. You understand? Where you can recall something Share the story, but without the emotion. If you can do that, then you have become wise as a result of the thing that happened in your life. The question is, how long will it take for you to get to that point? Because a
That's a
lot of
good
times we're
one.
carrying stress from things that happened years ago.
Absolutely. And you can really tell, um, it's a gauge when you tell your story if you really have a severe emotional reaction. And when you do, it is indicative of deep trauma
Hmm.
that you haven't dealt with. And
Hmm.
when you are recanting the story and you're emotional about the story, and not 100% of the time, nothing is 100%, but when you're recanting the story and your emotions boil over, that's when you know either you're having your breakthrough in that moment where you thought you had had it before, or you're realizing as you're recanting the story that, wow, I really never dealt with this. And now that I'm talking about it, I understand how I have allowed it to fester and sit in my subconscious or sit in my spirit without effectively dealing with it.
Yes.
I have
And
a whole lot of those stories.
yeah, I think we all do. You know what? Where yeah, we relive it every time we tell it. And that is not good from a health and wellness perspective. Because when we relive it, our body relives it. Our bodies go into a stress mode, and every cell in our body experiences it. That's why, I really try to get across to people. You can't live in a story if you're not going to become the victor. If you live in a story where you're constantly the victim, you
Amen.
victimize yourself every time you tell
I think we need to get you a pulpit.
it. Yeah. Uh,
But that is so true. That is
uh,
so true. We want to learn to get to the point where we are valiant over those things that have victimized us,
yes. Mm,
right?
mm. You cannot be the master and the victim at the same time, but you get to decide that story. And again, people think they get some benefit from retelling the story, but after a while, it's like even their friends, family friends, like we don't want to hear that. No, we want to hear you get over it.
We want
Tell
to
us
hear
how you
how
did
you
it.
overcame it because
Yes.
we have some challenges
Hmm.
that we are experiencing that we need to know how to get over,
How to get over it.
how to get
Absolutely.
over, right?
Absolutely. Mhm.
So, with that, coach, you want to go into some of the tips and techniques on tapping into your inner peace.
Yes. First thing, all right. Yeah, I tell people you have to sit still. Mhm. And I know this is hard for people because sitting still means they have to deal with their own thoughts. Our thoughts are nothing more than a conversation with ourselves. And most people don't want to have that conversation. Mhm. Natural again is practicing mindfulness and meditation. And this is again, this is a hard thing to do. People look at it and might think, oh, well, you know what? What all I need to do is sit down and close my eyes. No, it's not that simple.
Not
We
that
are
simple.
so conditioned with our mind running nonstop. We said we have an average of, believe it or not, 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day. Our mind is just very active. The question would be that I would challenge people is, what are those thoughts that you're having every day? And by the way, most of the thoughts you have today are the same thoughts you had yesterday. Mhm. Are those thoughts serving you? So you want to, really begin by just sitting down and going to say, if you're going to practice meditation, and I'm going to tell you from experience, it is hard when you first start. So my suggestion would be, you know what? Don't try to meditate at first. Try to sit still. Literally, just try to sit still and
I,
work your way into. Yes, Coach Mitchell.
yeah, I was going to say, speaking from experience, because I would ebb and, in and out of meditating and or spending time with my thoughts.
Mhm.
And as soon as something came up that I really didn't want to deal with, I would I would change directions. I would immediately start thinking of something else
Mhm.
and or coming out of that meditative state because I didn't want to deal with it.
Right.
I didn't want to deal with it. And I can tell you it in 2019 that stopped. And I deal with things that come up, emotions that come up that I didn't realize that were there, feelings that come up that I didn't realize that were there. It was in 2019 that I started to really sit down with myself and not pointing the finger outward at who I thought may have, grieved me or who may have crossed me in my mind. And I started dealing with what was in my heart.
Right.
And it was really hard because I had noticed before then that anytime I would pass judgment, God had a way of turning my finger back to me.
Mhm.
So I had to really discipline myself to sit down and work through those uncomfortable emotions.
It always starts with ourselves. People will ask me, when it comes to taking a particular journey, well, where do I start? You start from right where you are, because you can't start from any place else. Nothing in your life can happen unless it begins with you.
Right.
So the fact that you recognize that is really a power move, and you grabbed hold of it. Because here's the thing: once you grab hold of it, whatever it is, and you confront it, it actually goes away. They say what we resist persists. Mhm. So by grabbing hold of it, confronting it, you really cause, we'll say, the monster, in the dark to go away. Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, you know, s- something else too is, again, become aware of the things you are mentally consuming. Mhm. You know, because here's the thing: understanding how the mind, works. We have, you know, uh, they say like four different levels of consciousness. The two most people might be familiar with is our subconscious and our conscious mind. Well, our conscious mind is a filter, hmm? But our subconscious sucks up everything, even things we are not aware of. So if you are in a negative environment, if you are around drama, hmm, you might end up feeling some kind of way and don't even know why. Well, your subconscious is playing out because 95% of our life, I believe that's the number, is really geared by our subconscious mind. So you really want to be aware of that. One of the things I, was, talking to someone the other day who I knew was a little stressed. And I said, here's something else too. We want to practice breathing. And I know it may sound simple, it's like, well, who's I got to do it? Well, we want to move our body, you know, uh, we want our parasympathetic nervous system to kick in because we literally lived in a stress-filled environment on a day-to-day basis. Even if you think your life is going swell, if you got to drive someplace, there's a pretty good chance you're going to experience some level of stress. If you watch the news, you're going to experience some level of stress. Like I said, if you
Absolutely.
spend time on social media, so you want to become aware of where you're putting your mental and emotional energy. Mhm. You want to, something else that's free. And here is the here is the beautiful thing about this. Pretty much any symptom, any solution anybody would share with you is free. Mm? You don't need to go to a doctor and have him or her give you some pills, which is what we like to do. And those who know me know, I could blow that away against the whole pharmaceutical industry. All right, stay away from it. Stay away from it. Stay away from it. Mm? Nature and the divine provided you everything you need. My suggestion is take advantage of it. Unless you break a leg or something like that, then that's totally different. But here's the thing. If you're stressing, take a walk. I think it's a Buddha quote that says, yeah, if you're stressed, take a walk. If you are still stressed when you return, take another walk. If you can take a walk in nature, it is even better. Again, it's free.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm just going to caveat and say that, if you're having a chemical imbalance, we are not telling you not to seek psychotherapy. Okay.
Yeah.
Please seek help if you need help. Seek help if you need help. But when it comes to tapping into your inner peace based off of what Coach just said, I'll share my experience this morning while I was journaling, and I was sitting on the patio, and it was very peaceful. The birds were chirping, very calm. Sun was shining bright, and I just felt so connected. And I was just inspired to write. And I wrote a little poem to God because I just felt so in love with him. And I said to him in that moment, if you hear me, let me know. And all of a sudden, there was a breeze. And then it went away. And I said, thank you for your kiss. And it was just so tranquil. But I tapped into my inner peace this morning while journaling and just having that conversation with me and God. So it's not unattainable. It is deliberate and it requires
intentional.
discipline. It's very intentional.
Yes.
And it requires a shift in your mindset.
Yes. I think another key word too is to move into the space of allowance. We also talk about gratitude. That helps too because we focus on all the things that are not going right. We focus on all the things that we do not have. And that all creates a level of stress. So when we find our inner peace, we're going into a space of gratitude and you want to go into a space of allowance. And allowance is as you recognize that breeze, you allow that moment to come within you. Because how many times have we felt the breeze and just ignored it? It's a breeze, all right? You're going about your day. But the allowance is taking time to recognize it and allowing it to become part of you in that moment. And there is where you start to create your inner peace. Because on a larger scale, and this is, I'm gonna say this is a personal perspective, but it's not mine, is we become more peaceful within when we begin to connect to everything without. The peace within is when we connect to, for those who are familiar with, my health and wellness, the platform this year is 2023 Reconnected Me, because so many people are disconnected, is going through the motions of reconnecting with yourself, reconnecting with humanity, reconnecting with nature, which is what Coach Mitchell was just saying, and reconnecting with the divine, whatever that may be for you, because we are designed to be connected. We are connected. So if you're feeling some kind of way, it might be because you're feeling disconnected. I would pretty much rest assured that would be the root of your stress. You feel disconnected from something.
Yep. And like
so we have to go through the motions
give
of
yourself
getting
grace.
connected.
Yeah. I said, like Judith said, give yourself grace. We're not
Hmm.
perfect. We're human. We're not
Yes.
perfect.
Hmm.
And when we realize that, you know, in prayer this morning, the message was forgive yourself,
Hmm.
allow yourself the grace to forgive yourself, because there are
Yes.
things that, you know, we hold on to and we continue to, you know, harbor because we don't forgive ourselves and we feel unworthy of the forgiveness. And once we move beyond that and recognize that, you know what, we're all flawed and it's okay to make a mistake. The
Hmm.
key is to get up, course correct, and move forward.
Yes. Mhm. I heard a gentleman say the subject they're talking about, that inner voice and how it tends to be with most people. It's uh, we're very critical of ourselves. The self talk tends to be negative. And his spin on it, he said, that critic, what it is, it's really self love that's inside out. Mhm. Now, at first, that may sound a little strange, but then I connected that with a you know, saying a quote story from years ago where a woman asked, her therapist, am I a bad mother? And the therapist responded, no, you are not, just from the mere fact that you asked that question. A bad mother wouldn't ask the question because a bad mother wouldn't care. If you are criticizing yourself, that means you still have a set of standards somewhere in your psyche that you feel you want to live up to. You just need to change the conversation. Mhm.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
and
Good
that
evening, Ray.
hmm?
No, I say good evening, Ray.
Okay. You said Ray?
Ray, yeah.
Oh, okay. Uh, hey, how you doing, Ray? Hmm. So that what that voice inside your head, and I'm glad that actually Ray jumped in when he did because he shared a bit of information the other day that's believe, and this is going to be shocking, that 30, I think it's 30 to 50% of people don't have that inner voice. And I'm thinking, well, what's going on inside of them? I thought I thought everyone had the inner voice. Hmm?
Right.
Uh, you
That's a
know,
study within itself.
yes, but we want to learn to use that inner voice to benefit us. So again, in terms of finding your inner peace, I think it's one, you want to learn to quiet your mind and your spirit. Mhm. You know, when you do that, you have the opportunity to find something inside of you that you've probably been ignoring. You may find some things that you don't want to find or deal with, but that's part of the process.
Hmm.
Mhm. You know, you want get the other thing too that I think is really important is you want to be mindful too of the foods that you consume. Now you might think, well, what does that have to do with it? It has a lot to do with it because the things we put in our body also cause a chemical reaction, which often can put us in a stress mode. Just like comfort foods tend to make us feel good temporarily, there are foods that can also, you know, put us in a, you know, stress or depressed mood. So you want to be mindful. And people say, well, what should I eat? I'd probably start with saying, eat all natural foods as much as you can. That's the rule of thumb. Hmm? Then you could, get more specific from there. But for tonight, just take away, if you can get 75 to 80% of the foods in your, diet to be whole foods, natural, as close to its original, that will help because the whole foods will also trigger what I call, you get a dose, all right? And that's the hormones in your brain, and the neurotransmitters that will actually make you feel happy. So I call it getting a dose of happiness. So for those, and by that I mean, dopamine, oxycontin, no, yeah, I said oxycontin. That's
So,
I think the drug. But you want, was it serotonin and endorphins, which you can get to by exercising. So if you move, if you walk in nature, it'll set off some chemical reactions in your body, which will also make you feel better. You will also get closer to nature, which will lead you to getting closer to the divine. You see how this works? It's not having to do separate things. There's a oneness that exists in this universe that we are gifted with. Our problem is we see everything, as they call it, in the state of duality. Everything is separate, and it's actually not. That's, like I said, we call it an illusion. So you want to get to your inner peace. Again, sit down, find 15 minutes. Actually, I recommend a half an hour if you can get it. And it's best to do it in the morning. Spend 15 minutes of meditating, 15 minutes of prayer. If you can, get outside when the sun is rising and what we call sun gaze. That connects you to the bigger version. And it connects you to divine. If you can sit, again, as Coach Mitchell said, if you got some place where you can sit in the backyard, in the grass by some trees, that helps too. Control the conversation within. Like I said, you have everything you need. I like to say, I know I've been given every ingredient I need. My challenge is getting the recipe together.
That's right.
So if there's something awry in your life at this point, kind of really drill down as to what it is. Is it something that's true, or is it something based on a story that you have told yourself? And folks know, like I said, Coach Mitchell and I always tell a story where we were in a stress mode for several days based off a story that we told ourselves about each other, which was not true. It was something that we came up with in our own little head. So be mindful of that if you're stressing about something, is it based on something true, or did you create the whole story in your head? And because we don't like to be liars, we're going to make that story sound awfully true.
We're going to make it true to ourselves, right?
Yes. So you want to look at those things. And like I said, throughout the day, once you get your day started, remember to breathe. Remember to stay hydrated. When I tell you that everything is connected, that includes everything within us and everything outside of us. When something bad happens, they will say the world is a reflection, the outer world is a reflection of our inner world. And most of us don't want to take that level of control, but it's true. So again, begin also by finding spaces in your home and or office and straighten them out, clean them up, organize them. Because clutter creates stress, and stress prevents us from finding our inner peace. Learn to play music that also tends to have you experience a positive feeling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You don't want to listen to music that's going to make you want to go outside and fight somebody.
And there's really something called music therapy that is used by therapists when their patients or clients are depressed. They will prescribe them music therapy.
So utilize that. Here is something that I've become really big on as I learn more and more is look at when you're talking about music or, really just sound. Yeah. I don't know if anybody has any, I forgot the actual name. I'm calling them sound bowls for lack of the proper name. But those, the bowls, you might walk into little shops and they're like copper bowls where you tap them and they have this ringing sound. Those right there are used for healing. because it's based off of vibration. So again, if you want a tool to help you, de-stress and find your inner peace, sound is an excellent way. Now, if you can't get the both, just choose certain music. The YouTube is filled with all kinds of, nature, audio, and meditation. Even if you're not meditating, maybe play the music in the background when you're just fiddling around the house, or play music that you can dance to. Hmm? And doesn't
The
mean
music in
you
your head,
can't dance.
the music in your head count.
It sure does. Hmm? It sure does. So,
But also along those lines, even the smells, the scents, the
mhm.
aromas that you're exposed to can help with your inner peace.
Yes.
If aromatherapy is perfect, if you burn, what do you call it, diffusers.
Yes. Your diffuser. Mhm.
Diffusers, lavender is so calming and peaceful. Even orange peel is very calming and it's soothing. And yes, Spotify is another great option, to play music, to find music that you can help calm the stress levels or help you de-stress
Yes.
and
Mhm.
help you tap into a more peaceful space.
I'm glad you mentioned that as well for my Field of Dreams customers out there. Some of you have purchased diffusers, from Field of Dreams and the essential oils. Now, the other thing that what's really good with this is it's all natural, and I'm big on all natural modalities. So yes, the aroma, mm, uh, and if you can make it a natural aroma, the better off you are. I want you to think about the aroma and the sound. Mhm. Both of those are geared toward our senses, but they go beyond that. Our,
Hmm.
our nasal passages actually have a direct connection to our brain, so it triggers something. And I don't remember the exact thing, but for those, like I said, if you may want my paper on aromatherapy, I'll send it to you. But it lays everything out there. And it connects on another level that every cell in our body has a memory, which is why when we smell something, it can trigger a memory from our childhood, from a relationship. And if it triggers the memory, which is a thought, it triggers an emotion. Sometimes the emotion will trigger an action. So all of this, again, it's connected. So you want to find aromas put in your space when you're trying to find your inner peace.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's the chemoreceptor cell, and the nasal cavity serves as a centennial of
Well,
the respiration. So when you're inhaling and it's really penetrating,
mhm. I only
it's
heard part
it's
of you. I only heard
I
part of what you
said
said, Rachel.
the nasal cavity
Hmm.
serves as sentinels of respiration.
Hmm.
So it's a chemosensory that it triggers when you're
Okay.
smelling a certain scent,
So okay.
a certain aroma.
Mhm. So you got to think about that when you're really trying to find things that are going to lead you to a place where you have total control over your not reaction to life, but your response to life. We tend to react, and we reacting from a very stressed mode as opposed to having a sense of self-awareness to allow us to respond in a way that is most beneficial to not only ourselves, but maybe other parties. Mhm. Because what do we want to do? We want to, you know, I put it in, this may sound a little, as I say, cheeky, but they say you want to decide who you want to be whenever you show up. Mhm. And if you can be in the space of love whenever you show up, that's even better. And here's the other thing too. Why? Think about the times where you prepared yourself for a confrontation and it didn't happen. And you wasted all that time stressing out for something that didn't happen. Or think about when you projected kindness or politeness to someone. Quite often you diffuse the situation because it's really hard to come back in a uneasy state to someone who's being kind to you because you begin to look foolish to yourself. Hmm? We can go back and forth and argue, but if someone comes back and just pretty much doesn't give you that expected confrontation, you have nothing to work with. So again, something else about being mindful or having a state of awareness. And again, I keep reiterating, you are going to slip up. All right. We all do. You want to catch yourself or at least have the awareness to replay the event afterwards to say, you know what? That didn't serve me well. That's not who I want to be. Because guess what? We really lack the ability to turn off the stress on a moment's notice. So once we put ourselves into that space of stress, it's hard to say, okay, now I'm back to being good. No, your body's still reverberating. Mhm.
Yep. And then you have to make a conscious effort
Mhm.
to start all over again and recalibrate,
Yes.
right?
Mhm. Yeah.
All right, Coach Darren, you have some last minute tips on what we can do to tap into our inner peace before we wrap up?
Yes. First, I would say before right here, right now, take a deep breath. Mhm. Let your, when you inhale, let your, inhale be longer than your exhale. Do that about 3 times. You will begin to feel the difference in your body. Mhm. As you go out throughout your day, pay attention to your body language. We tend to carry a lot of stress in our shoulders. And this is the one thing that you're probably not even aware of. You're probably walking around with your shoulders hunched on some level because you're stressed about something. Yeah, drop them, relax. You know what? Again, we tend to live in a space where we're always on guard. And it's understandable, but it's not serving us. Mhm. So you want to do that. Well, again, you want to make sure you're drinking some water because you want to stay hydrated because dehydration triggers, you know, other issues in our body, which will lead to stress. You want to eat properly, take a walk, spend time with nature. You will find that the things I'm sharing with you now, if you came to any of the health and wellness sessions, they're going to be pretty much the same. Mhm. Because they represent something, all right, which I won't go in here, but they do. Get some sunlight, because we need it. Lack of it means we end up being deficient in vitamin D, which then causes some other issues. And for all you want to keep running to the doctor, no, don't run to the doctor. Just go outside. Go outside and play. All right. If you really want to be fantastic, take your shoes off and run around in the grass. All right. There's benefit to that.
There is, there is. But I have one other technique that I use to tap into my inner peace to make sure that I am showing up as my best self.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm driving, I make sure to make a conscious effort to smile because as
Yes.
I watch people drive by with these expressions of just in such deep thought about the next thing. I mean, you can just see it on people's expressions, right? I make it a conscious effort to smile so that if someone's looking, and not for appearance's sake, but because it keeps me in a state of peace.
Yes.
And I don't want to be stressed, and I don't want those triggers of stress to be firing in my body because you can feel it. You
Yes, you
can
can.
feel it. So the next time you are in your car and you drive by someone, take a look at their expression
Mhm.
and then assess how you feel in that moment.
Mm. For you folks in the Northeast, if you really want to throw somebody off, you know what? Wave at them when you go by. All right? That doesn't work in the South. They beat me to it. Hmm? Folks be waving at you left and right. And I'm like, do you know them? No. It's just how they are. They will wave and speak. Hmm? Just try that and watch the reaction. Most people you catch off guard, but most people will end up smiling back. Hmm? And speaking. So again, these are all tips that will lead you to that place of inner peace. Most importantly, find time to yourself. I remember, believe it or not, I remember Susan Taylor. I went to an event and she was a guest speaker. This had to be 30 plus years ago. Yeah, matter of fact, I know it was. She was the first person I heard of. She used the term, your 30 golden minutes that you want to find every day for yourself. She didn't talk about meditation or anything like that. She just said you want quiet time. So do that. Oh, and the other thing I didn't mention is you also want to make sure you're getting adequate sleep because lack of sleep causes a whole, again, series of issues internally, which will put you into a state of stress.
Absolutely.
So,
Lack of sleep makes you mad.
yes, yep. Uh,
I don't know the chemical name, but it makes you mad.
it does. Just as being abruptly awakened from sleep. So if anybody out there is still using an old-fashioned alarm clock, now you're probably a ticking time bomb. You know, change that. You know, wake up to a particular song or sounds that's going to ease you out of sleep. You know, because your brain has to go through several stages to bring you back to a state of where you're awake. But we all know we don't like to be abruptly startled in our sleep.
No.
No, so uh, trying to think of this.
I think you covered them all. So is there any, outside of the tips, any last parting comments? Because we are at the top of the hour, and I know we want to let our viewers know, those that are listening in, about Field of Dreams. So we have a minute or so.
Oh, just a quick plug, actually two plugs. One, most of the things that we talk about on this platform and on our health and wellness platform, a lot of the products are provided by, Field of Dreams. Uh, I will say go to the website, but all the new products aren't actually listed. But if you are looking for any natural products, uh, even in some cases, recipes that, either Coach Mitchell or myself, by the way, I'm going to tell you that Coach Mitchell has an anti-aging cream that she, figured out, learned how to make. Again, saves you the trouble
That's right.
buying stuff off the
I don't
shelf. Hmm?
I don't look like I'm heading into that twilight. No.
You know, but yeah, yeah, like I said, I'm just big on using natural products and reducing the toxic load in our bodies, which
Yes,
we
absolutely.
are overwhelmed.
Right.
Hmm?
And when we talk about health and wellness, a lot of times we tend to only think about our diet and maybe exercising, but we forget about what we're putting on our bodies.
Hmm.
And if, we sit and we think about some of the products that we use, they contain a lot of toxins, a lot of toxins. And what's coming top of mind is for African American women, even, other ethnicities, hair relaxers, for those who put relaxers in their hair, now I see there's a class action lawsuit because it's caused for women ovarian cancer or some issues with the reproductive system. So we want to be mindful, not just about, you know, what we're eating or getting that exercise, but also what we're putting on our bodies, because it does make a difference. And when we talk about health and wellness, we want to talk about health and wellness holistically, mind,
Yes.
body, and soul, body external as well as internal. So
Mm.
I
So
think what we will be doing is debuting on Field of Dreams. We will come streaming. We don't know exactly when. We have to line up our products, but we will introduce our products on Facebook Live so that you have an opportunity to see what we're offering and hopefully see something that you like and will purchase and try, and it works for you as it does for us.
yes. And again, I don't remember everybody who was on, but I hope some of the people who received the a package at the beginning of the year, which basically had some free all natural products. I hope you had a chance to use them. We hope to be able to send out more. Basically, I will say this will be going out to existing customers. So,
Edwina, you'll be getting a package.
hmm?
I said, Edwina will be getting a package.
Yes. I will be honest, we were thrown off by the cost of the shipping. We had these nice packages put together, and the shipping cost just turned out to be more than we expected, but that's not going to stop us. We're going to get some more packages out because it's part of our movement to get people really to leverage, I'm saying leverage nature. Mhm. You know what? You could a lot of you can make your own at home recipes. Uh, there are so many
You are
things that
welcome.
you can do, and for any we got we got men in here. I
We
think
have
you mentioned
Ray and
John.
we had John. I believe John is still on. I can't really tell because my posts are delayed. So I'm not
Okay.
able to tell who's actually
Uh,
still in the
right. I'm trying to
session.
think of the doctor's name. Dr. Rachel, the doctor I just came upon. I have to find. I have to share. But
Yeah,
again,
that's for Brother Bind.
hmm?
That's for your Brother Bind group.
I sorry, I still didn't hear you. But anyway, I'll share that doctor's name at another event. She's really good for natural holistic approaches for men who are dealing with aging issues. Mhm.
Absolutely. So we want to thank you guys for joining us tonight. We know we went over a little bit, but we really hope that you got something out of tonight's discussion. And we will be back next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Thank you
Yes.
so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Mhm.
I'm Coach
Thank you.
Mitchell,
Thank you. Thank you.
and I thank you, and Coach Darren thanks you as well.
Mhm.
We'll chat soon.
Mhm.